Hey guys, tonight we slip back into a world where fire is your alarm clock, iron is your closest friend, and every morning begins with the quiet promise that something heavy, glowing, and slightly dangerous will need your attention. You wake in the dim blue of a medieval dawn, the kind of cold, early light that makes even the chickens reconsider their life choices. You push aside a wool blanket that smells faintly of smoke, because in this life, everything smells faintly of smoke, and step onto a floor that is somehow colder than the air around it. Before you even reach the forge, you can already feel it, the gentle pulse of last night's embers still breathing under ash. It's strangely comforting, like the medieval version of a sleep tracker telling you, hey, at least something here stayed warm overnight. Outside, the village is quiet enough that you can hear a single cartwheel clunking somewhere far away. A dog coughs. A rooster thinks about crowing, then decides, nah, too early. And look, I know you're tired. You're supposed to be. This is medieval life. People back then worked sun up to sundown, ate like hobbits, and slept like overworked stone golems. Honestly, you probably wouldn't survive this, but that's okay, because all you have to do is listen and drift. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing the whole world tucked in together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step outside, boots crunching frost, and head toward the forge, your forge, sitting slightly crooked at the edge of the village square. Its wooden frame leans the way all medieval buildings lean, confidently, but with a don't breathe too hard nearby energy. The air tastes like cold iron, dew, and leftover smoke. Somewhere above you, a crow watches your entire routine like it's critiquing your posture. Inside, the ashes glow a faint orange. That's your first small victory of the day. You don't have to start the fire from scratch. Medieval blacksmiths guarded their embers the way modern people guard their phone chargers. Losing them meant a whole morning ruined. You kneel beside the hearth and break the crust of cooled ash with a poker. Warmth blooms upward, soft as a sigh. As you uncover the coals, your hands already know the motions. They've done this so many times that the gestures feel more like instincts. You add thin kindling, dry twigs, shaved curls of wood, the occasional scrap of straw. A low whoosh follows, barely more than a whisper, but enough. Flames lick upward, eager, hungry, promising heat. The bellows waits beside you, massive, leather-skinned, and slightly resentful of mornings. Medieval bellows were usually made of cowhide and wooden boards, and you start pumping slowly, rhythmically, until sparks leap like fireflies startled awake. This is the part where your shoulders warm up before the rest of your body does. The forge brightens, red, then orange, then the beginning of yellow, deepening with every push of air. And that warmth, it changes the whole room. Shadows crawl away. Iron tools along the walls catch tiny flecks of light.
The anvil shines like a wet stone. You feel the day stretching ahead, heavy but familiar. People often imagine blacksmiths sweating dramatically from dawn onward, but here's the surprising historical fact. Early in the morning, the forge is actually cold. The real heat arrives later, when the fire is full and the iron is stubborn. Right now, it's peaceful. You're not hammering, you're coaxing the forge to life, like convincing a teenager to get out of bed. A chicken wanders in. It always wanders in. No one knows who owns it. Some villagers think it belongs to the baker. The baker swears it belongs to the cobbler. The cobbler insists it's a demon in poultry form sent to spy on him. Historians still argue whether medieval villages truly had wandering community chickens, but the evidence is charmingly inconclusive. You nudge it out gently with your boot. It stares at you like you're the one intruding. As the fire heats, you check your tools. Hammer, a little chipped on one edge, but still fine. Tongs, slightly bent, probably from yesterday's apprentice incident. Your quench tub, cold as your morning mood. Everything is where it should be. Then you hear it. Cartwheels, slow ones, wooden ones, the kind that announce your first customer before you even see them. You don't turn. You're still warming the fire. Morning, a voice calls. Hoarse, friendly, and carrying that tone medieval villagers always have, a mix of polite greeting and subtle complaint. It's old Tomlin, the cooper, the barrel maker. He limps into the forge carrying something wrapped in cloth. It cracked again, he says, holding the bundle out like he's offering a baby. Right along the hoop. You gesture him closer without stopping the bellows. The unwraps to show exactly what you expected, an iron hoop, bent just enough to ruin his latest barrel. He always brings his problems early, before the market gets loud, and before he has to argue with merchants about the price of salt cod. You take the hoop, feel its weight, turn it in your hand. Iron this thin responds best to a gentle reheat. Not too hot, not too cold. Kind of like dealing with a sensitive cat. Tomlin mutters something about how barrels used to never crack like this, even though they definitely did. People in every century believe things were better a generation ago. You finally set the hoop aside for later. Come back after sunrise, you tell him. I'll have it straightened. He nods, relieved, and leaves behind a faint smell of sawdust and wet wool. Once he's gone, you take a long breath and let it settle. The day is beginning, not with fanfare, not with drama, but with steady routine. The kind of calm morning where you're aware of every detail. The hiss of rising flame, the soft creak of wood beams expanding with heat, the metallic tang at the back of your tongue. You add a thicker piece of wood to the fire. The forge responds instantly, glowing deeper, brighter. Soon it will be hot enough for real work. Soon iron will soften and shapes will form beneath your hammer. But for now, this moment, this hush, this tender warmth growing out of darkness is its own small sacred ritual, one that blacksmiths for centuries have known intimately. And as you stand there, a quiet thought drifts through your head. This day is going to be long, heavy, and probably a little ridiculous, but it's yours.
You hear the forge wake fully before you feel it. An exhale of heat pushing into the cool morning air, as if the fire itself is stretching after a long sleep. The coals glow brighter, pulsing with that warm heartbeat red that every blacksmith secretly depends on. You roll your shoulders, take a slow breath, and prepare for the moment your day stops belonging to you and starts belonging to everyone else. Because in a medieval village, the early morning rush is very real. People don't have smartphones, so instead they wake up and immediately remember every broken object they own. And they all bring it to you. The bellows grunt as you press them again. This morning rhythm is almost meditative. Inhale, push, glow. Inhale, push, glow. If you ever opened a medieval yoga studio, this would be the first exercise, blacksmith breathing. Guaranteed to warm your soul and maybe your eyebrows. One slow squeeze at a time, the forge brightens until the whole workshop feels like it's lit from inside your ribs. Through the doorway, you spot the first streak of sunlight sliding down the thatched roofs of the village square. It's pale and gentle and completely unhelpful. You'd like just 10 more quiet minutes with your fire, but fate and villagers have other plans. Footsteps crunch toward you, multiple sets. Too many sets for this hour. You know that sound, the morning complaint parade. The first to appear is Elswith, the baker's wife, holding a metal peel with the handle broken clean off. She lifts it like an accusation. "It's snapped," she announces. You glance at it. "It's been cracked for 3 months. "Well, yes," she says, "but today it snapped." "Fair enough." She sets it on your workbench with the same energy someone uses to slam down a lawyer's briefcase. Behind her comes Bjorn, the shepherd, carrying a bent iron hook. And then old Dane, who always shows up, even when nothing is broken, just to make sure he doesn't miss anything interesting. "Mornin'," he rasps, leaning on the doorway. "Something's burnin'." "It's a forge, Dane." "Oh," he nods sagely, as if you've just given him insider information. These early customers hover while you stoke the fire hotter, each holding their broken object like a child awaiting medical attention. It's the medieval version of a waiting room, except people here judge your hammer technique instead of the magazines. You pick up Bjorn's hook, bent almost 90 degrees, probably snagged on a fence post again. Shepherds in this village have a special talent for breaking things in ways historians still can't fully explain. Seriously, historians still argue whether medieval shepherd tools broke so often due to poor quality metal, rough usage, or simply shepherd energy. No consensus yet. You hang the hook on a peg and promise you'll fix it by midday. He nods once, satisfied, then wanders off to yell at some invisible sheep. Next, you take Elswith's broken peel. She hovers behind you like an impatient cloud, so you set the handle aside, intending to carve and fit a new one when the fire is fully ready. Meanwhile, she watches your every move, even though she has a bakery full of dough rising like overconfident bread clouds. "Don't you need to get back?" you ask. "My niece is watching the ovens." Ah, the niece. I've met her. She's enthusiastic. The kind of person who burns water. You kindly suggest that maybe, possibly, the ovens could use her supervision. Elswith gasps softly, remembers her reality, and bolts back toward the bakery in a flurry of skirts. You hear her shouting, "Don't open that!" before she's even halfway there. With the morning crowd slowly trickling away, the forge feels like it's breathing with you again. Warm, alive, but still waking up. You take the iron hoop Tomlin left earlier and slip it gently into the embers. It darkens, then blushes faintly as the metal begins to soften.
The fire dances along its surface, painting shadows that ripple over the workshop walls. There's something strangely comforting about this. The way the coals glow in rhythm, the way the metal yields slowly, grudgingly, like an old man finally agreeing to bend. A rooster crows loudly outside. Not your rooster, not anyone's rooster. Just the village rooster with the loudest existential dread. You try to ignore it, but it crows again and again until you find yourself muttering, "It's too early for your opinions." That's the third joke you've made today, which means you're either well rested or fully losing it. You pull the hoop from the heat with your tongs. The iron is warm enough to shape, but not hot enough to melt, which is perfect for morning repairs. You tap it against the anvil, tap, rotate, tap, adjust. The sound rings out into the village like a sleepy church bell announcing, "The blacksmith lives. You may now bring him your problems." Another villager appears at the doorway, drawn by the ringing. This time, it's a young man holding a battered cooking pot that looks like it survived 3 small wars and 1 large tantrum. "It was my mother's," he says hopefully. "It still is," you answer. He nods, unsure whether that was an insult or reassurance, then sets the pot on your table with exaggerated care. You promise to look at it later, after the hoop, the hook, the peel, the pot, and whatever else fate throws at you. You notice something unusual as the sun finally clears the rooftops, the faint smell of sweet wood smoke drifting from the west road. Travelers, maybe? Or someone burning something they probably shouldn't be burning. Medieval villages excel at both. Here's your historical fact of the moment. In many medieval communities, blacksmiths were some of the first people travelers sought out upon arriving. A bent wheel rim, a loose nail, a cracked buckle, they always needed something fixed. Your forge functioned almost like a medieval auto shop, just with more chickens and less customer service training. Speaking of chickens, yes, the same chicken from earlier has returned. It stands in the doorway like it's evaluating your work, head tilted, eyes bright. I swear it's judging your hammer grip. You point your tongs at it. Not today. It struts away with endured pride. By now the hoop is nearly perfect again, the curve smooth and tight. Tomlin will pretend not to notice your craftsmanship, but will brag about it to everyone else in the marketplace. The forge heat strengthens as you pump the bellows once more. Sparks fly upward, tracing tiny arcs toward the rafters where spiders have spun webs that shimmer like silver nets. The entire workshop smells of warm iron, ash, and the faint herbal scent of your quench tub. Someone added mint leaves last night as a joke, and now everything smells like medieval toothpaste. Outside, the village grows louder. Merchants set up stalls. Children chase each other with sticks that they insist are swords. A dog barks at a butterfly. The world is fully awake. And so are you. Your fire is bright. Your tools are ready. Your day has officially begun. There's just one thing missing now. The first, truly demanding task, the work that will define your morning. And as if summoned by the thought, you hear hooves clopping rapidly towards your forge. The kind of hooves that belong to an animal who definitely has opinions about standing still. A horse. A very restless horse. Your next challenge arrives snorting, stamping, and ready to test every skill you have.
The horse announces itself before you even see it. One sharp, impatient snort that echoes off the workshop walls, followed immediately by the frantic clatter of hooves scraping cobblestone. You lower the hoop you've been inspecting and step toward the doorway, already bracing yourself for the kind of visitor
that makes every blacksmith simultaneously grateful and mildly terrified. Because shoeing a horse is never boring, and shoeing a restless horse, that's a whole personality test. The mare is tall, muscular, and carrying the unmistakable expression of an animal who believes the universe has deeply inconvenienced her. The reins are held by Randall, the miller's son, who looks like he hasn't slept since the last harvest. His hair is a mess of flour, and his tunic is dusted so thoroughly that he resembles a sentient loaf of bread. "She's thrown her shoe," he says breathlessly. You blink at him. Has she, or has she launched it into orbit? Randall thinks this over. Yes, that tracks. You step out into the morning light and place your hands gently on the mare's neck. Her skin is warm, her breath visible in short bursts, her ears flicking back like tiny flags of disapproval. She stamps the cobblestone with enough force to announce that she disapproves of every life choice that has led her to this moment. "It's okay," you murmur, because historically, blacksmiths talk to horses far more than people assume. Some depended on the animals to stay calm, others simply needed someone to talk to who wouldn't argue about taxes. You stroke her shoulder until her breathing slows from furious snort mode to merely annoyed huff mode. The missing shoe tells you a lot. It's lying nearby, bent at an angle that suggests she either stepped in a deep rut or kicked something extremely stupid, like a fence post or Randall. You examine her hoof, careful and slow. The edges are chipped. The old nails are still stuck in the hoof wall, bent and twisted like relics of a bad argument. "Found her dancing in the mill yard," Randall explains defensively. "There was a goose." Ah, the goose. Every village has at least one feathered menace who thinks it's the local sheriff. Historians still argue whether medieval geese were actually more aggressive than modern ones, but let's be honest, no one needs a scholarly consensus to know they were absolutely unhinged. You secure the mare to the hitching post near your forge, tying the rope with a knot she can possibly undo. She immediately begins trying to undo it anyway. You admire her commitment. "Hold her head steady," you tell Randall. He nods, grabs the reins, and instantly looks like a man reconsidering all of his life choices. You slip a hand down the mare's leg and lift her hoof. She tenses. You murmur something soothing involving oats and divine mercy. She relaxes just enough for you to wedge a hoofpick into place. The forge's warmth reaches your back as you scrape away compacted dirt and debris. A few small stones fall out, clinking softly on the ground. Horses step on everything: rocks, roots, misplaced spoons, the hopes of apprentices. Once the hoof is clean, you remove the old nails with your pincers. Each one comes out with a soft pop that makes Randall twitch like he's hearing distant ghosts. "Is this gonna hurt her?" he asks. "No, but if you keep asking, I might hurt you." He shuts up instantly. Good. Learning. You bring the damaged horseshoe inside the forge. The metal is cold now, dull gray and uncooperative. You slip it into the glowing coals and pump the bellows until the iron turns cherry red, soft enough to reshape, but not so hot that it loses its integrity. Here's your historical fact for this section. Medieval horseshoes weren't just nailed on and forgotten. They had to be reshaped frequently because roads were rough, travel was constant, and horses did everything from hauling grain to carrying news. A blacksmith might shoot dozens of horses a week, each one a slightly different puzzle,
As the metal heats, sparks drift upwards like little spirits being released from the iron. The mare snorts again, offended at something only she can see. Randall whispers an apology to her. I pretend not to hear it. When the horseshoe glows the color of sunrise, you lift it with your tongs and set it on the anvil. The iron sings under the first hammer strike, ting, clear and sharp, echoing across the square. Villagers look up, recognizing the start of real work. You tap, rotate, tap. The shoe shifts from crooked to true, bending into the perfect curve of a hoof that was definitely not designed with Blacksmith's sanity in mind. Tiny flecks of hot metal jump away like baby fire sprites. One lands on your boot. You shake it off. You can feel the mare watching you from outside. Horses always do this, staring with the judgmental intensity of a medieval grandmother evaluating your cooking. Randall peeks into the forge. Is it supposed to be that color? Yes, you say. And the sparks? Yes. And the smell? That's you. Go stand farther back. He obeys. Good. Learning. Once the shoe is shaped, you plunge it in the quench tub. The water hisses dramatically, sending a cloud of steam curling into the rafters where it condenses on the spider webs like mist on fine silk. You fetch fresh nails, slim, sturdy, tapered. Each one was forged by your own hand last week. Nails are the quiet backbone of your craft. Historically, some smiths made thousands a year. There were even shops called naileries, which sounds like a medieval beauty salon, but absolutely was not. You return to the mare. She eyes the shoe skeptically, as though suspecting foul play. Lift, you murmur, and her leg rises with surprising grace. You fit the shoe against her hoof, adjusting it millimeter by millimeter. When it aligns perfectly, you begin to drive the nails in, angled precisely so they emerge from the hoof wall without touching anything sensitive. That's the part most people don't realize. Done right, horseshoeing doesn't hurt at all. Done wrong, well, let's not do it wrong. The mare flinches slightly at the tapping, but you speak softly, making the world small and calm around her. Randall hums something off-key, which somehow helps. A few final blows, a deft twist of the nail ends, and the shoe is secure. You lower her leg slowly. She tests it. Steps once, twice. Snorts approvingly. Thank goodness. You hand Randall the old bent shoe. He looks at it as though it's a relic from a dangerous adventure. Keep it, you tell him. Maybe hang it over your door. Good luck. He brightens immediately, as if you've just handed him a medieval NFT. As horse and human head back toward the mill, you stretch your back, exhale deeply, and return to your forge. One demanding task done, a dozen more waiting. The day is heating up, just like the fire.
The moment the mare's hoofbeats fade down the lane, the rhythm of the village shifts again. Morning is no longer morning, it's officially market time. And market time means one thing for you: carrying whatever you manage to finish before the chaos hit, hauling it into the square, and trying not to trip over anything alive, wooden, or poultry. Your forge sits right at the edge of the marketplace, close enough for convenience, but far enough that you're not constantly sweeping spilled grain out of your doorway. You gather the small tools you've hammered out over the last few days: a set of new chisels, 3 iron hinges, a repaired sickle blade, a bundle of nails tied with twine, and the straightened hoop
Tomlin dropped off in his daily bout of despair. You set them in a wooden crate, one that definitely used to hold apples before someone sat on it, and lift it with both hands. The weight feels good, familiar. There's something comforting about carrying objects you've shaped yourself. Each one holds a memory of the heat, the hammer blows, and at least one moment where you wondered if it was all about to go horribly wrong. As you step into the market square, you're met with a wall of sensory assault. It smells like everything at once: fresh bread, damp wool, onions, wet earth, leather, smoke, something that might be cabbage but might also be regret. Merchants are already shouting prices in accents thick enough to slice, and chickens, yes, more chickens, scatter in front of your boots. The square is a chaotic miracle of color and noise. Wool merchants shake out blankets that look like ground-level thunderstorms. The fishmonger yells something about the freshest river trout, even though everyone knows he bought them from the traveling peddler who arrived 2 hours ago. A woman selling herbs has spread her bundles so beautifully that even the plants seem impressed. You place your crate on your usual spot beside the fountain that's really just a carved stone bowl fed by an uncertain trickle of cold water. It burbles like it's trying its best. You relate to it. Tomlin spots you immediately. Barrel maker instincts. He hobbles over, wiping his hands on his tunic, which does nothing because his tunic was ruined years ago. "Is it straight?" he asks without greeting. You lift the hoop from the crate. It gleams, perfectly circular, catching sunlight in a way that makes it look like it has ambitions of becoming jewelry. Tomlin grunts approvingly, high praise by his standards. "Good, good. Knew you'd manage." He didn't, but that's fine. As he leaves with the hoop, a cluster of curious villagers gathers around your tools. A few poke at the chisels. One woman lifts the sickle blade, testing its curve. Someone else taps on the hinges like they expect them to reveal secrets. This is the part of the morning where you play the medieval version of a hardware store clerk. How much for the nails? A penny for the bundle. Why so much? It's a penny. Oh. Negotiations go smoothly in the way medieval negotiations usually do. Loud enough that nearby pigeons reconsider their nesting plans, but eventually ending with someone walking away satisfied and someone else staring into the existential void. You trade the hinges to the tavern keeper's assistant, who promises payment in ale later. Payment in ale later is medieval for, you might see this ale sometime in the next 3 seasons. But tavern business is steady, and hinges break often. You mentally accept the future drink you will probably never receive. As you answer questions and pass tools around, the market's energy hums around you. And here's your historical fact for this section. Medieval markets weren't just for buying things. They were the social engine of the village. People caught up on news, rumors, and occasionally shouted debates about things like whose goat escaped again and which lord was raising taxes this month. Speaking of rumors, you catch a fragment of one drifting through the crowd, like smoke. Travelers on the West Road. Strange cart, no horses. Carried something wrapped thick. Avoided the main path. Interesting. Suspicious. Potentially concerning. Historians still argue whether medieval villages were actually as rumor-driven as the plays and chronicles suggest. But honestly, judging by the current volume of gossip about travelers no one has even seen, absolutely yes. Medieval gossip traveled faster than medieval horses. As you consider this, a loud whoomp jolts the air beside you. A large sack hits the cobblestones at your feet with enough force to make you wonder if a meteor just landed. You look up to see Gilda, the grain merchant, grinning broadly. "Need this repaired," she says, tapping the iron clasp on the sack's drawstring. It's bent, twisted, and somehow sharp enough to qualify as a weapon. How did this happen? She shrugs. The usual. The usual for Gilda includes falling off carts, slapping thieves, wrestling stubborn donkeys, lifting sacks that weigh more than full-grown men, and sprinting across the square whenever someone announces free samples. You examine the clasp. It's small work, not urgent enough to rush, but too irritating to ignore. You tell her she can pick it up later at the forge. She nods and strides off to shout at a rival merchant who's encroaching on her grain-selling turf by exactly 1 inch. As you continue trading, you notice one stall across the square that's new. A traveler selling carved wooden toys. The figures are painted in bright colors: knights, dragons, horses, even a little blacksmith with a hammer too big for his body. Kids swarm around the toys, their laughter rising above the market noise. The toy merchant catches your eye and lifts a miniature anvil in greeting. You nod back, silently acknowledging the mutual respect between craftspeople who spend too much of their lives hitting things until they look correct. A few moments later, the village's bailiff trundles into the square. He's wearing that official-looking wide belt that makes him seem important, though everyone knows his biggest duty is reminding people to stop throwing vegetable scraps into the well. He waves cheerily. "Smith, heard you fixed Tomlin's hoop." You blink. "He left 5 minutes ago." "Aye, said it was the best hoop he's ever seen." You consider the possibility that Tomlin may be spreading advertisements on your behalf. Disturbing. Effective. By now, you've sold 3 chisels, traded the sickle blade for a small pouch of coins, and received 2 requests for later repairs. The sun climbs higher. The market buzzes like a hive. But your forge calls. The fire won't stay hot forever. You gather your lighter tools, tuck the remaining goods back into your crate, and weave through the crowd. Children chase a dog. A goose chases the children. Someone argues passionately over the price of onions. Just another day. When you finally step back into the quieter shade of your forge, you can still hear the market humming behind you like a distant song. But inside, the air shifts again. Warm, focused, waiting. The real work is about to start.
You set the crate down on your workbench, shake out your arms, and take a moment to appreciate the relative quiet of the forge. It's not silent, it never is, but compared to the chaotic orchestra of the market, the soft crackle of coals feels like a lullaby. Warm shadows slide across the walls as the fire shifts, and for just a heartbeat, you let your shoulders relax. That's when you hear the sound. A heavy thunk, then a frustrated grunt, then another thunk, louder this time, vibrating through the wooden frame of your forge. Ah, that can only mean one thing: a farmer with a problem too big to fix quietly. Sure enough, you step out to find Harl, a broad-shouldered farmer with hay sticking out of his hair like decorative feathers. His face is twisted into the expression of a man who has accepted that today is going to test him spiritually. He stands beside a plow, if you can still call it that. The blade is snapped clean in half, jagged and ugly, as though someone ripped it apart with their bare hands. "Harl," you say slowly, "what did you do to it?" He shifts uncomfortably. "It hit a stone." You point at the break. "This wasn't a stone." He sighs. "Fine, a very big stone." You kneel to examine the damage more closely. The blade is thick, good iron, old but sturdy. Breaking it like this would have taken force, leverage, and maybe divine intervention. A crack like this doesn't happen from one wrong bump. It happens when someone keeps plowing into the same buried object repeatedly, muttering, "Just one more pass," like a medieval mantra. You weren't supposed to plow the north field until after the thaw, you remind him gently. He winces. I know. But the ground looked soft. You raise an eyebrow. Did it? No. There it is. You stand, stretch your back, and mentally prepare for what's ahead. Fixing a broken plow isn't light work. It isn't neat work. It's the kind of job that defines your entire morning, and probably your forearms for the next 2 days. The blade is too damaged to bend back into shape. It needs reforging, which means heating, hammering, shaping, quenching, adjusting, and probably swearing quietly under your breath at least 3 times, all before noon. You drag the plow blade inside your forge. Harl follows, looking like he expects you to resurrect it through sheer willpower. "Leave it with me," you tell him. "I'll have it done before sundown." Before sundown? His eyes widen. Can it really be done that fast? You shrug. Depends on how many other things in this village fall apart today. Harl nods solemnly, accepting his fate, and heads back toward his farm. He walks with the posture of a man who deeply regrets his choices. You place the broken sections of the plow blade in the heart of the fire. This isn't light work, like smoothing nails or shaping small tools. This is the heavy iron that blacksmiths earn their reputation on. As you pump the bellows, the coals brighten to a brilliant orange, then white-hot at their center. The iron begins to glow slowly, reluctantly, like an old man stretching before a long walk. Here's your historical fact for this section. Medieval plow blades were some of the most essential tools for rural life. A single broken blade could stall an entire family's planting season. Some villages even kept backup plowshares in communal storage because they were so vital and so often abused by rocks, roots, and overly optimistic farmers. You lift the first heated piece with your tongs. The metal droops slightly under its own weight, softening like heated wax. You set it on the anvil and bring your hammer down. Clang. The sound rings through your bones. A second strike, then a third. The vibrations travel through the handle, into your palm, up your arm. This is the part people imagine when they picture a blacksmith. The strength, the sparks, the sweat. But the truth is quieter. It's about rhythm, not brute force. You strike where the metal needs guidance. You listen to the tone. You watch the surface shift, bright and malleable. Sparks spray outward with every blow, painting brief constellations against the walls. One lands on your sleeve. You pat it away and keep hammering. As you work, the iron pieces begin to align again, edges smoothing into new curves. You rotate them, flip them, hammer from every angle. The fire breathes behind you, the bellows groaning, as if cheering you on. That's when you smell something, faint but unmistakable. Garlic, onions, spices, You glance toward the square. Someone is preparing early lunch stew, a tempting distraction. It reminds you that medieval life moved on a predictable rhythm. Farm, eat, work, eat again, sleep, repeat. Except blacksmiths didn't always get the eat again part. Too many customers, too much metal, too many emergencies, and occasionally, yes, too many plows destroyed by very big stones. You return the blade to the fire. The broken edges need welding. Real welding, not the modern version with sparks flying and protective masks. Medieval smiths did forge welding, heating iron until it nearly melts, then hammering the pieces together until the boundary disappears. It's delicate. It's stubborn. It's downright temperamental. You sprinkle sand over the joint to prevent oxidation. The sand melts into a glassy film that protects the metal as it heats. This is the quirky fact for this section. Smiths often used sand, clay, or even powdered straw to help forge weld iron. Some swore by certain river sands. Others insisted mountain sand worked best. Historians still argue whether these preferences were scientifically sound or just medieval superstition. Probably both. When the joint glows bright yellow, almost white, you move fast. Lift, align, strike. Clang, clang, clang. Metal meets metal with sharp authority. The two halves fuse, reluctantly at first, but then more willingly with each blow. You feel the shift in your hands, the subtle change in resistance that tells you the weld is taking. It's satisfying, deeply. After several rounds of heating and hammering, the blade is whole again, though rough and thick. You shape it carefully, thinning each edge, carving the curve until it matches the memory of the original. Your hammer moves faster now, dancing almost, each strike guided by instinct more than thought. Sweat beads on your forehead. The forge heat wraps around your shoulders like a heavy, fiery cloak. Your lungs fill with warm air that tastes slightly metallic. Finally, when the blade looks right, and feels right, you plunge it into the quench tub. Steam billows upward with a hiss so loud it startles you slightly. The temperature shift hardens the iron, locking in the shape, the strength, the long morning of labor. You lift the blade from the water. It gleams with that flawless, slate-gray finish only fresh-forged iron has. It's heavier in your hands now. New, improved, reborn. Harl will be thrilled, or as thrilled as farmers get, which is usually a polite grunt and a nod.
You set the blade aside to cool and wipe your forehead with the back of your sleeve. The morning has already shaped itself into afternoon heat. The market noise softens as merchants turn their attention to lunch, and your stomach growls. Right. Lunch. You should probably do something about that. But first, you glance at the forge, the tools, the cooling blade, the sunlight creeping through your doorway. The hardest part of the morning is behind you. Probably.
You set the reforged plow blade on a wooden shelf to cool, its surface still whispering thin threads of steam. Your stomach gives another pointed reminder that you are, in fact, mortal. The morning's fire, sweating, and horse-related negotiations have burned through whatever bread you ate at dawn. Time to fix that before your vision starts adding dramatic cinematic filters to everything. You wipe your hands on your apron, out of habit more than effectiveness, and step outside. The market has loosened from its noisy peak into something gentler, calmer. The crowd thins. People drift into corners with bowls of stew or hunks of bread. A lute player plucks a song that might be cheerful, might be tragic. Medieval music has a way of sounding like both emotions at once. You cross the square toward the bakery, following the warm scent of rising bread and roasted grains. Elswith's bakery is the brightest spot in the village, full of bustling warmth and mild chaos. Today, the chaos is winning. As you approach, you hear, "Not that one! That's too much flour! Why is it smoking?" Ah, the niece is in charge again. You step inside gingerly. The air is a swirl of heat, flour dust, and culinary ambition. A tray of pastries burns quietly in the corner, like a small funeral pyre. Elswith herself is fanning smoke from an oven and muttering about never letting children bake unsupervised unless absolutely forced by fate. She spots you immediately. "Your peel!" "Yes," you answer diplomatically. "It was in 2 pieces." She sighs dramatically. "Everything is in 2 pieces today." You hand her a temporary wooden-handled version you quickly carved earlier, simple but effective. She clutches it like a holy relic. "Lunch?" she offers, already knowing the answer. "Please," you reply. She hands you a fresh loaf, warm enough to fog the air. Its crust is a rich brown, thick and crackling, and the steam rising from the torn edge smells like comfort itself. You tear a piece off and take a bite. It is, in fact, phenomenal. You step outside again to eat in relative peace, leaning against the sunny wall of her bakery. The village feels slow here. The world feels softer. A pair of children chase each other with wooden swords, one shaped vaguely like a fish for reasons scholars still debate. Was it a toy? A teaching tool? A weapon? Historians remain confused and delightfully divided. You eat your bread slowly. Interesting, concerning, but not your business yet. The medieval lifestyle was fairly straightforward. Fix metal, mend tools, shoe horses. Don't get involved in mysterious road events unless someone physically drags you there. You take another bite of bread. The crust cracks under your teeth. Your jaw relaxes. For a moment, the weight of the day pulls back, replaced by a mellow lull that drifts into the afternoon air. Then a voice cuts through the calm like an arrow made of pure annoyance. "You!" You turn. It's Garin, the village gossip, self-appointed news authority, and part-time trouble magnet. He always moves at the speed of someone who believes every moment he's not talking is a personal tragedy. He marches toward you, waving a hand as though he's trying to flag down a ship. "You'll never believe what I heard," he says dramatically. I sigh softly. "But you'll tell me anyway." "Travelers on the West Road," he whispers, leaning in way too close. "Strange ones, carrying something wrapped up tight, big, heavy, and they didn't look like merchants." You blink at him. "Garin, literally every traveler carries something wrapped up tight." He squints. "Yes, but these ones looked suspicious." "You think everyone looks suspicious." "Yes," he nods proudly, "a useful talent." Before you can redirect him towards someone else, he lowers his voice even further. "Some say they avoided the main path, skirted the woods. Why would travelers do that?" You shrug. To avoid Garen. He gasps, offended, then laughs like you meant it as a compliment. Crisis averted. He bustles back into the square, probably to repeat the story to the same 3 people who pretend they haven't heard it yet. You finish your bread, brushing crumbs off your apron. The bread has restored your strength. The fire calls again, quiet but firm. But before you can return, Elswith pokes her head out of the bakery. "Oh, almost forgot," she says. "Somebody came asking for you. Said they'll return this afternoon." "Who?" She shrugs. "Didn't say. Looks official." Official. That could mean a few things. A tax collector? Unlikely. They'd never approach a forge without backup. A manor messenger? More likely. Or someone trying to sell questionable miracle herbs? Very likely. You push that aside for now. Tasks await. Back at the forge, the fire has dipped into a mellow orange glow. Still useful, but ready to be encouraged. You give the bellows a few steady pumps as you settle into your chair for a moment. The warmth wraps around you like a blanket. Your lunch sits pleasantly in your stomach. Your arms have stopped vibrating from hammering the plow blade. Your mind hovers in that in-between place, half rest, half readiness. And this is when the quiet rumors start drifting in through the doorway. Small ones, odd ones. Someone lost 3 chickens last night. No tracks, no feathers. North path feels wrong. You lean back slowly, letting the murmurs flow. Villagers talk, they speculate, they exaggerate. But sometimes, just sometimes, rumors point towards shifts bigger than themselves. Historians still argue whether medieval villagers were hyper-aware of danger or simply dramatic by nature. Judging by your village, probably both. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the afternoon breeze touch your cheek. The break was good, but the day is far from over, and you can already feel the forge warming again, inviting you back into its blazing heart.
You rise from your brief rest, dust the crumbs from your apron, and step back toward the forge's open mouth. The fire greets you with a low, hungry whoosh, as if it spent your lunch break plotting new ways to toast your eyebrows. Afternoon heat rolls off the coals in steady waves, thicker and heavier than the crisp morning warmth you started with. This is the part of the day when the forge becomes its own small sun, and you become the planet reluctantly orbiting it. You grip the bellows and work them with long, even pulls. Each squeeze sends a new rush of air into the fire, coaxing it brighter, hotter. The glow deepens from pumpkin orange to molten gold. Shadows retreat into the corners. The air thickens. Sweat prickles along your spine. Afternoons in a medieval forge aren't just hot, they're legendary. You once heard a traveler joke that blacksmiths must be half fireproof, half stubbornness. Honestly, he wasn't wrong. Even now, standing several feet from the hearth, you feel the heat sinking through your clothes, settling into your bones like an overly enthusiastic ghost. You pull your next task from the shelf, a large iron hinge requested by the monastery 2 villages over. It's not broken, just newly formed and needing refinement. But it's big, almost absurdly big. The kind of hinge that makes you wonder what exactly they're trying to keep shut. A door? A gate? The secrets of ancient manuscripts? A monk's forbidden cheese stash?
Historians still argue whether medieval monasteries truly hid massive wheels of cheese in secret chambers, but your personal experience leans heavily toward definitely yes. You slide the thick iron bar into the coals. The metal darkens, then slowly begins its bright, painful journey toward the color of sun-warmed honey. As you watch it heat, the world inside the forge grows oddly quiet. Even the usual market noise has faded into the lazy murmur of afternoon commerce. Then, tap, tap, tap. A soft knocking at your doorway. You turn to find Lysa, one of the village potters, holding something wrapped in linen. She always looks calm, composed, and slightly bewildered by the existence of chickens. Today is no exception. "This broke," she says, unwrapping a pottery trimming tool. The blade is snapped cleanly from the handle. You hold it up against the light. "Did you try to cut stone with it?" She purses her lips. "No, I tried to cut clay, very stubborn clay." You examine the pieces. An easy fix, but delicate. You promise to repair it once the giant hinge stops pretending it's the center of the universe. "Before sundown?" she asks, hopefully. You nod. "Before sundown." She smiles softly. Lysa never talks much, but her gratitude is warm in a way that stays with you. Then she leaves, careful to avoid stepping on the nearby goose, who is loitering with intent. The goose hisses at her. She bows respectfully, because she knows who is truly in charge here. You return to the forge and lift the iron bar from the fire. It glows brilliantly, alive almost. You set it on the anvil and let your hammer fall. Clang. The sound vibrates through the floor. Clang. A few merchants in the square glance over. They know this sound, the heavy, resonant tone of a smith shaping large iron. It has a rhythm that's older than most languages, predictable, yet powerful. You hammer from the far end inward, edging the metal into a smooth curve for the hinge's joint. Sweat forms at your temples. The air is thick. Every breath tastes faintly of iron and smoke. You pause only long enough to reheat the bar, then continue shaping it, strike after calculated strike. This is the slow burn of blacksmithing, the part that looks simple from the outside, but demands focus, timing, and a sixth sense for when iron is about to cooperate and when it's planning betrayal. A bead of sweat slides down your jaw. You wipe it away with the back of your wrist, only to smear a streak of soot across your cheek. You look like a warrior who lost a fight with a fireplace. Typical. Halfway through shaping the hinge, someone calls out from the doorway, "Smith, got a moment?" You turn to find Brenor, the tavern bouncer, a mountain of a man built like a wall with a beard. He holds a broken metal bracket in one hand and a loaf of bread in the other. "Brought payment," he grunts, offering the bread. You nod. "For the hinge on the cellar door?" He shakes his head. "No, that one broke again." You sigh.
Tell the innkeeper to stop slamming it. He shrugs. He gets excited. You take the bracket. It looks like it lost a fight with gravity, ale barrels, or possibly both. You promise to fix it later, and Brennor leaves, munching the bread he was supposed to give you. Classic Brennor. You return to the giant hinge. The metal is cooling quickly under the afternoon air, so you slide it into the fire again. The heat gushes upward, sparks fly, your skin tingles as the temperature rises. This is where the stamina kicks in, the mental grit to keep working as the forge transforms into what historians politely call an extremely unpleasant workplace environment. If modern tourists ever visited a real medieval smithy, they'd describe it as historical, beautiful, and faintly murderous. You pull the hinge from the fire one last time and finish shaping it, refining the curves, flattening the latch plates, smoothing the transitions. By the time you're done, it looks solid, symmetrical, dependable. You plunge it into the quench tub. Steam blooms upward in great white plumes. The rafters disappear behind a cloud. A startled spider abandons its web and rappels down like a tiny panicked knight. You wipe your face with your already filthy sleeve and let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. One heavy job done. But the day isn't slowing down. If anything, the heat is rising, thick and relentless. Your arms ache pleasantly. Your shoulders feel like they're humming. The forge crackles, thriving on the afternoon energy. You prepare to tackle the potter's delicate tool when a familiar tap, the quick, precise kind, sounds outside. A messenger. A manor messenger. Uh-oh. He stands in the doorway in a neat tunic with the Lord's crest stitched on the chest. His boots are polished. His expression is the perfect blend of polite urgency and "I could ruin your schedule." "Blacksmith," he says with a small bow, "the Lord requests your skill, today, if possible." You blink once. Of course. The afternoon was going too smoothly. The heat behind you roars. Your tools gleam. Your patience reshapes itself for whatever's coming. But you nod. Tell me what needs fixing. The messenger smiles, relieved, grateful, and steps inside to explain.
And you know instantly, your long day is about to get even longer. The messenger steps fully into your forge, careful to avoid the tools scattered across the floor. He moves with that stiff, formal gait that manor servants cultivate. Part duty, part discomfort, part, "I'm not entirely sure what a blacksmith does, but I respect the smoke." He waits until you set aside the cooling hinge. Then he clears his throat with the seriousness of a man about to announce a royal decree. "The Lord requires urgent repair work," he says. You nod once. "What kind?" He hesitates. Never a good sign. "A collection," he says, finally. "Several pieces, actually. Items from the manor gate and the stables, and," he lowers his voice, "the armory." Ha! The armory. because nothing screams relaxing afternoon like fixing weapons in a room full of sharp, pointy objects and political tension. You gesture for him to continue. We've loaded the items onto a cart outside. If you're able, we're to bring them back before dusk. Before dusk, of course. Because apparently everything in this village hinges upon the sun, like it's the world's least patient supervisor. You step outside with the messenger, blinking as daylight sears across your vision. A sturdy cart waits near the square, and on it, carefully bundled under rough linen, you see the outlines of metal in various states of distress. A bent spearhead, two rusted gate hinges the size of small shields, a cracked stirrup, a chain with 3 links broken clean through, and something longer, wrapped tightly in cloth, that makes your eyebrows rise a little. The messenger notices your glance. He clears his throat again. A sword. You lift the cloth slightly. Yes, a sword. A good one, too. Or at least it used to be. The blade is chipped along the edge, and the fuller is warped like someone put it through an overly dramatic duel. You look at the messenger. What happened? He shifts uncomfortably. Training accident. You raise an eyebrow. Training accidents come in many flavors, none of them subtle. He lowers his voice. The young lord swung at a practice dummy. Missed. Hit a stone pillar. You wince. Oof. Yes, the messenger says gravely. There was echoing. You drag the cart closer to your forge and lift the cloth parcels one by one. The weight is impressive. Gate hinges demand strength. Spearheads require precision. The chain links will need welding. The sword will require a small miracle. You step back into the forge. The messenger follows, but keeps a respectful distance from the coals. Very wise. The heat now is ferocious, thick as a summer blanket. Afternoon light pours through your doorway in molten streaks, turning the drifting ash motes into tiny golden fireworks. You start with the easiest, the broken chain links. You lay them in the coals and begin pumping the bellows. The messenger watches with cautious fascination, as if expecting the iron to suddenly speak. Do you repair many things for the manor? He asks. Sometimes, usually hinges, occasionally helmets, rarely swords. He nods. The young lord... He gets enthusiastic. Enthusiastic, you repeat. That's one word. He smiles despite himself. The metal links glow orange. You grasp one with your tongs, set it on the anvil, and begin closing the gap. Clink, clink, clink. The messenger flinches at every hit. You get used to it, you say casually. I doubt it, he murmurs. You return the link to the fire, letting it heat until it's ready for welding. When iron reaches the right temperature, it doesn't just glow, it softens in a way that makes the whole piece feel alive under your hammer. You sprinkle a pinch of fine sand onto the joint, your secret weapon. Medieval smiths sometimes used sand or glass-like flux to prevent oxidation during welding. Some insisted river sand worked best, others swore by crushed seashells. Historians still argue whether it was science, superstition, or just whichever material they had lying around.
You lift the glowing link, press its ends together, and hammer fast. Ting, ting, ting. The joint disappears. The iron becomes whole again. The messenger lets out a low whistle. Impressive. You shrug. Just practice? He nods, though he looks like he's watching sorcery. Next, the gate hinges. They're massive, heavy enough that the cart groaned when you pulled them off. You heat each plate and hammer the bent edges flat again, fixing the pin sockets, reshaping the curled ends. Sweat runs down your back in thin rivers. The forge roars like a hungry animal, feeding on your effort. The messenger wipes his forehead. How do you stand this heat? You grin. Poor life choices. He laughs, a short, surprised sound. The gate hinges take time. A lot of time. By the hour's end, your shirt clings to you, your hair is damp, and your arms ache with that familiar pleasant burn that blacksmiths carry like a badge of honor. You plunge the finished hinge into the quench tub, sending up a thick plume of steam that rolls through the rafters. Only then do you turn to the spearhead. It's bent, not deeply, but enough that its alignment is wrong. You heat it, straighten it, file the edge, sharpen the point. Spears were the backbone of medieval weaponry, more common than swords and far more practical. Peasants carried them, guards carried them, even monks occasionally carried them, though they were supposedly just walking sticks. Historians still debate that one. The spearhead finishes beautifully, straight, sharp, balanced. You set it aside. Then you pick up the wrapped sword. The messenger steps closer, hands clasped behind his back. The young lord will be most grateful. You snort softly. Will he notice the difference? No, the messenger admits, but his tutor will. You unwrap the sword fully. Its blade is long, double-edged, with a fuller down the center. The hilt is simple, but well-crafted. This isn't just a practice piece. It's a family weapon, likely passed down through several generations. And it is injured. Not broken, not ruined, but tired. The metal edge is chipped from that infamous stone pillar incident. The fuller is warped. The balance is off. You warn, this will take time. He bows. We trust your skill. You slide the blade into the fire. Heat wraps around it like a shimmering veil, and slowly the metal begins to blush. Swords require delicacy, strength and gentleness, fire and restraint, precision and instinct. You can't rush a blade like this. It demands patience. As the sword heats, the messenger shifts awkwardly. Is it true that smiths name their forges? You glance at him. Some do. Do you? Yes. He brightens. What do you call yours? You deadpan. Regret. He blinks, then bursts out laughing so hard he nearly chokes on air. When the blade reaches the perfect temperature, you place it on the anvil and begin straightening the warped fuller. Each tap is careful, light, precise, the opposite of everything you did earlier with the plow blade. This is surgical work, graceful, slow. The messenger watches in reverent silence. You hammer, reheat, hammer again. Chips along the edge grind away under your file. The sword regains its symmetry, its dignity, its purpose. By the time you quench it, the afternoon sun has shifted toward evening. The light through your doorway glows amber. The forge crackles softly, as if pleased. You hold the blade up. It gleams. A good sword. A saved sword. The messenger exhales relieved. The Lord will be pleased. You nod, tired but satisfied. Tell him to avoid stone pillars. I will, he says seriously, but he won't listen. You hand him the bundled repairs. He thanks you with a bow and leaves the forge. The doorframe quiets. The air settles. Your arms ache. Another job done. Another hour vanished. And outside clouds gather at the horizon, dark, heavy, promising rain. You take a slow breath, letting the heat roll off your skin. The day isn't done yet. Not even close.
Rain announces itself first as a distant rustle, soft, hesitant, like a traveler knocking politely at a stranger's door. You pause mid-step, listening. The forge fire crackles. The air holds its breath. And then the first drops fall, tapping the roof in light, scattered percussion. Within moments, the sound deepens into a steady patter, the kind that turns every surface into a quiet drum. The thatch above your head darkens, the smell of wet straw seeping into the air. A cool breeze threads through the forge's doorway, brushing across your overheated skin like the world's most considerate towel. You step toward the entrance and watch as the rain thickens into a silver curtain. Villagers scatter for shelter. Merchant stalls pull in their wares. The goose, yes, that one, spreads its wings dramatically and honks at the sky as if offended by the weather's audacity. Afternoon rain in a medieval village is a strange blessing. It sweeps dust from the air, settles tempers, cools everything the sun bullied earlier. And for a blacksmith, it brings the best working conditions you'll get all day. Cooler air, softer light, fewer interruptions. You return to your forge, rolling your sleeves higher. Droplets tap the stones outside, the sound echoing faintly through the wooden beams like distant applause. The roof drips near the entrance, always the same leaky spot, always ignored because the thatch repair man insists he's too busy until next moon, which is medieval for never unless bribed with barnyard cheese. You pull Lice's delicate pottery trimmer from the shelf. Compared to the manor repairs, it's practically a feather. But delicate work has its own demands. You heat a thin piece of scrap iron for the new blade, letting it glow a gentle orange, hot enough to shape, but cool enough not to warp instantly. As you hammer, your strikes turn soft. Light taps, tiny corrections. This is precision work. The fire hums behind you, and the rain hums outside, and between the two, you fall into a quiet rhythm. Tap, shape, flip, tap, adjust, tap. There's something soothing about the tiny techniques, like writing with metal instead of ink. You file the new blade to a narrow edge, thinner than most villagers ever see, the kind that can trim clay as delicately as a painter trims brush hairs. While you work, a strange, pleasant smell reaches you, rain hitting hot iron, a faint metallic sweetness. You inhale slowly. It's a smell that comes rarely and disappears fast, like a small secret shared between storm and forge. You set the new blade aside to cool and turn to the next project, Brenner's cellar door bracket, a sturdier piece, warped nearly sideways. You heat it while listening to the rain carve steady trails down your doorway stones. Tap, clang, tap. More shape than force. The bracket gradually returns to sanity. As you work, your thoughts drift, not aimlessly, but in that slow way long crafts often invite. You think about the manor messenger, about the young lord with the stone pillar incident, about the travelers whispered about in the square. Villages like yours rarely see strangers who don't want something or who carry something heavy wrapped in linen. Historians still argue whether medieval people were genuinely more suspicious than we are, or simply louder about their suspicions. Judging by the current vibe, probably both. The bracket finishes beautifully. You file the rough edges, quench it, and place it beside the pottery tool. A fine pile of jobs completed. There's a satisfaction in that, the quiet kind that settles beneath the ribs. Another drip hits the floor near you. You look up. The leak has now evolved from drip to calculated mischief, falling right where you plan to stand next. The roof beams creak with each gust of wind. The forge cools just slightly at the edges, not enough to hinder the fire, but enough to take the oppressive heat off your back. You take a step closer to the doorway and watch as the rain washes the village square into a blur. A child splashes deliberately in a puddle. A merchant curses dramatically as his cart cover collapses. A stray dog trots past, soaked and thrilled. That's when you notice the hooded figure standing across the square. Still, too still. Cloaked in deep brown wool, head bowed, posture stiff as an oaken beam, the rain runs off their cloak in clean sheets. They don't move. They don't look up. They simply stand as if the storm is nothing but a mild inconvenience. A chill threads down your neck. Not fear, just that subtle medieval instinct that whispers, that person is either very tired or very important. As you watch, the figure finally turns and walks slowly out of sight, their boots splashing softly. You breathe out. Strange, but not your problem. Not yet. You return to the forge and settle into your smaller afternoon tasks. Rain softens everything, even sound. Your hammer strikes become muffled, intimate. Sparks drift upwards lazily, refusing to commit to drama. Even the fire seems gentler, offering heat without bite. You reach for another small repair, an iron clasp, probably Gilda's again, though who knows at this point, and begin shaping it. You feel your muscles loosen in the cooler air. The afternoon heat subsides. For the first time since sunrise, your skin is not cooking. Clink. The clasp slides into its final form. You exhale, a soft, lingering breath. Outside, the rain shifts from steady curtain to delicate drizzle. The storm's energy wanes. The clouds break apart just enough for a sliver of golden evening light to push through, thin, washed out, but gentle. You sense the day beginning its descent. The forge hums low. Your tools rest in tidy rows. Work slows. Thoughts drift. But you're not done yet. Evening brings people. Evening brings problems. Evening brings the tavern, whose workers are absolutely about to burst through your doorway with half their kitchen equipment. You wipe your hands on your apron, take a breath, and brace yourself. Because the rain has cooled the village, and that means everyone is about to come out again.
The rain slows to a lazy drizzle just as the evening wakes up. You can feel it, the subtle shift in the village's rhythm, like someone gently turning the page of a long, noisy book. The marketplace hum softens. The last few merchants pack up their goods, and the tavern, ah yes, the tavern, begins to glow with that unmistakable warm golden light that means two things. Someone is cooking something good, and someone is about to break something metal. Both will involve you. The moment the sky brightens with a thin streak of fading sunlight, you hear footsteps splashing through puddles. Fast footsteps. Too fast to be casual. Too fast to be legal. Then a voice. "Smith, are you in?" Before you can answer, the tavern door across the square swings open dramatically. So dramatically, it slams into the wall with a metallic crack, which you already know is the hinge you fixed last season, and which you also know has just reminded you that tavern repairs tend to be infinite. Two figures hurry across the square under a shared cloak. Winner, the tavern's second cook, and Jory, her perpetually nervous helper. They look wet, frantic, and suspiciously flour-covered, which means something exploded or fell or both. Winna bursts into your forge without waiting for permission and holds up a large bent object that looks vaguely like an iron ladle that lost a bar fight. "This," she declares, "used to be round." You blink. "Did it hit something?" She glares at Jory. Jory stares very hard at the floor. "I tripped," he mumbles. "He tripped," Winna corrects him, "into a boiling cauldron with this in his hand." You examine the ladle. It's bent nearly 90 degrees at the midpoint, the bowl warped and dented like a small meteor hit it. You turn it over in your hands, feeling the heat still lingering on the metal. You're lucky this didn't melt to your fingers. It nearly did. That's because you put your face over the steam. Winna snaps. "I was trying to smell if it was soup or gravy. It was steam." "Steam doesn't smell." "It does when it's angry." You pinch the bridge of your nose. Taverns produce more bizarre metal injuries than anywhere else in the village. The forge, the mill, the farm, those break things from necessity. Taverns break things from enthusiasm. You set the ladle aside gently. "I'll fix it." "Oh, and this," Winna adds, producing a folded metal hinge with scorch marks along one edge. "The cellar door jammed again." You squint. "Already? Brenner was just here." "Yes," Winna says flatly, "and Brenner is the reason it broke again." You pause. "Did he fall into it?" She nods gravely. "Backwards." You sigh. Repairing tavern items is like repairing the concept of chaos itself. You place the cellar door hinge on your bench next to the ladle. Before you can even pick up your hammer, Jory nervously clears his throat. "There's, also the spit rod." You blink again. "The one for roasting?" "Yes." "What happened to that?" He hesitates. "It, bent." "Bent how?" Like someone sat on it." You stare at him. "Someone sat on the roasting spit." He nods miserably. "It was dark. It's a metal pole." "It was still dark." You turn to Winna, silently asking for confirmation. She sighs deeply, the sigh of a woman who has accepted that her workplace is a battlefield.
It was the minstrel. He was trying to impress someone by dancing on the table. You nod slowly, and then he fell. Yes. Onto the spit. Yes. And then you brought the spit here. Yes. You inhaled the way a man does when considering switching professions. All right, add it to the pile. Wenna looks deeply grateful. Jory looks deeply ashamed. You almost feel bad for him. Almost. They leave the forge together. Wenna muttering about the state of the world, Jory muttering about steam not having a smell, leaving you in the red-orange glow of the forge with an armful of culinary casualties. You set the roasting spit into the fire first. Long pieces heat unevenly, so you rotate it slowly, carefully, letting the warmth seep through the bend. While it heats, you reach for the ladle and inspect the warped bowl again. This one will be a challenge. You heat the bowl just enough to soften it, then begin pressing it back into shape using a rounded stake and light hammer taps. The metal sings quietly with each strike, not the bright tone of sword repair, but the gentler ding of domestic, everyday work. The kind that kept medieval life functioning between the more glamorous disasters. Your arms move automatically now, muscle memory guiding every angle. The rain has tapered to a mist outside, cooling the forge's entrance while your fire heats the back. The mix of temperatures creates a comfortable gradient, almost cozy. You finish the ladle bowl, reshape the handle, file down the rough edges, and quench it with a satisfying hiss. Next, the cellar door hinge. It's bent sharply, but not broken. You reheat the plate, flatten it, strengthen the socket, and fix the warping caused by Brenner's backwards descent. Every strike sends sparks outward, lighting up the forge walls like stars in a small, smoky universe. While you work, you hear the tavern beginning to fill, laughter rising, mugs clinking, chairs scraping. Evening has officially arrived. The square glows with golden window light. The smell of stewed meat and herbs drifts on the damp air. You switch to the spit rod. This one requires patience. You heat the bent section until the metal softens, then pull it against the anvil's horn, straightening it with long, even pressure. Slowly, stubbornly, the iron yields, returning to its straight form. You quench it and hold it up to the firelight. Straight as a ruler. Strong as ever. Ready to roast things that hopefully won't involve confused minstrels. You tie the repaired pieces together with a scrap of cloth and set them at the doorway. Wenna or Brenner will collect them soon, probably with more stories about melting stew and broken chairs. For the first time since morning, you allow yourself a long, slow breath. You step outside and look across the square. The tavern windows glow. Shadows move inside, dancing, laughing, weaving through ale-scented air. A stray note from the lute drifts out, soft and wandering. The rain has washed the cobblestones clean. The sky is a deepening blue, streaked with faint purple. People gather around lantern posts. Children splash in leftover puddles. Even the goose appears calmer, patrolling the edge of the square with dignified menace. It's evening in a medieval village. Your forge is warm. Your tasks are done, for now. But you know this calm won't last. There's still the apprentice, still the ordering list for tomorrow, still the nighttime travelers, still that cloaked figure you saw during the rain. And of course,
Still plenty of metal waiting for you inside. You turn back toward the forge. The night shift is about to begin.
You return to the forge, expecting a moment of peace. Maybe a quiet stretch of minutes where you can lean on the anvil, roll your shoulders, and pretend your spine hasn't been negotiating with gravity since sunrise. But the universe has other plans. Small, anxious, apprentice-shaped plans. Because he's already there, standing exactly in the middle of your workshop, frozen, holding tongs. Wrong. Your apprentice says. You close your eyes slowly. Dot, dot, dot. What did you drop? He swallows. Nothing. You raise an eyebrow. He crumbles immediately. A little something. Define little. He points at the ground without looking. You follow his gaze. A glowing red blob of metal sits on your dirt floor, radiating heat and innocence. Beside it lies a half-formed latch, one you vaguely recognize as the piece he was supposed to be shaping before you left for lunch. The latch is now two pieces, neither of them correct. You inhale deeply through your nose. He blurts, "It jumped." "I'm sure it did. It was slippery. It was molten." "Exactly." You pinch the bridge of your nose. Your soul tries to leave your body. Unfortunately, it hits the thatch roof and has to come back. "Okay," you say through a deep breath. "Let's start again, slowly." He nods, sweating, not from heat, from terror. You gesture to the red-hot blob. "First," you say, "move that to the quench tub before it burns a hole through the floor." He grabs the tongs, upside down, naturally, and you correct him with one finger. Then he lifts the metal, barely, stumbles 2 steps, panics, drops it in the quench tub, and nearly jumps out of his skin when the water hisses like a furious dragon. Steam erupts. He shrieks. You sigh. "Good," you say. "Now it's safe." "It tried to bite me," he whispers. "It did not. It hissed. The water hissed." He considers this. "Oh." The forge crackles behind you, offering warm sympathy for your suffering. You pick up what's left of the latch, 2 warped fragments resembling confused worms. You hold them up. "Explain?" He rubs the back of his neck. "I was hammering it, and it was going well, and then it wasn't going well." Astonishing detail. He takes a deep breath. "It was crooked, so I hit it harder. Then it was more crooked, so I hit it harder again. Then it broke." You blink at him. You attempted to solve a precision issue with force. Yes,
That is the opposite of precision. Yes! Stop nodding. He freezes. You reach for a stool. Not for him, for you. This conversation requires sitting. Your apprentice is not a bad kid. In fact, he's better than most. He works hard, he cares deeply, he has a heart of gold and the coordination of a newborn deer. But every blacksmith in history, every single one, has one season where they question whether teaching an apprentice was a noble calling or a cosmic prank. Let's fix this together, you say finally. He exhales in relief. You reheat the latch fragments in the coals. He watches closely, eyes full of determination, or maybe fear. The metal glows faintly again. Malleable, but grumpy. Perfect. You place the broken ends together on the anvil and sprinkle a little sand over the seam. What's that for? He asks. To protect the weld. It stops the iron from oxidizing. He nods thoughtfully, then asks, "What's oxidizing?" You take another deep breath. Iron turning crusty and sad. Oh, right. Historians still argue whether apprentices in the Middle Ages were genuinely clueless or simply overwhelmed. But judging by your current sample size of one, the answer is a confident both. The metal reaches the perfect temperature. You nod at him. Hammer. No, you say instantly. Hold it like you want to work, not like you want to scare it. He adjusts. You guide his hands into the proper arc. Lift, control, strike. His first hit lands too soft. His second, too hard. His third, just right. A clean sound resonates through the forge, bouncing off the beams. Ding! You nod. Good. His face lights up. Then he lifts the hammer again, confidence rising. Easy, you warn. He slows. You guide him through a steady rhythm. Careful taps to fuse the joint. Deliberate pressure to shape the latch back into alignment. Together, you work the metal like a shared breath. When at last the latch is whole and mostly straight again, you feel a faint swell of pride. Not in the latch, but in him. He beams. Did I do it? You did, you say. He wipes sweat from his brow, dramatically, unnecessarily. I knew it. I knew I could do. You set the latch aside to cool. Good work. Now sweep the floor. He freezes. Sweep? Yes. He looks at the floor like it's a foreign landscape. All of it? Yes. With what? He glances around as if hoping the broom will reveal itself through divine intervention. You point. The broom in the corner. He finds it instantly. Of course he does. As he sweeps, kicking up dust clouds large enough to obscure the forge, you take the opportunity to check your tools. Some need oiling, some need sharpening. Your hammer heads are warm from use. Your tongs need their joints tightened. Medieval tools, like medieval apprentices, require constant attention. The sweeping becomes rhythmic. Scrape, drag, sweep. Occasionally interrupted with, sorry, as he bumps into something. You catch falling tools twice. You catch falling him once. You watch him for a moment. Despite the chaos, he tries, and that's enough. When he's finally done, he wipes his forehead again.
Is that all? For sweeping, yes. He looks relieved. Then he looks terrified. What's next? You smile. A gentle, slightly wicked smile. Sharpening the draw knives. His face wilts. But those are sharp. Yes, that's what sharpening means. He nods with the expression of a soldier marching bravely into battle. As he prepares for the next task, evening light shifts outside. Soft, orange, beginning to fade. Lanterns are being lit in the square. Voices carry. The air cools. You feel the forge's warmth against your back and the chill evening breeze on your face. It's a good balance, a quiet moment. But not for long, because soon travelers will arrive. Tonight always brings travelers, and travelers always bring trouble, or both. You watch your apprentice fumble with the sharpening stone. You shake your head fondly, and you keep working.
Evening settles over the village the way warm embers settle into ash. Slowly, softly, with just enough glow to remind you the day isn't finished, not even close. The forge light paints long, wavering shadows across the floor, stretching toward the doorway where the last streaks of dusk linger, like fading brushstrokes. Your apprentice sits on a low stool, sharpening a draw knife with a level of concentration usually reserved for royal decrees or aggressive geese. He drags the steel carefully across the whetstone. Scrape, shk, scrape, shk. The sound is steady, almost meditative. You're pleasantly surprised. Maybe he's learning. Then he asks, "Is it supposed to make that noise?" You glance over. Yes. Oh, he looks relieved. Good, because it's been doing that the whole time. You return to your own task, oiling the tools you used earlier. Even your hammerheads gleam with a faint sheen now, catching the last amber hints of daylight. The air is warm, but not stifling. The forge finally has settled into that mellow evening burn, less like a roaring furnace and more like a friendly, oversized hearth. Outside, the tavern hum grows deeper, voices lowered, laughter thick, ale flowing. A lute plays a tune that sounds suspiciously like the minstrel has recovered from his roasting spit incident. Good for him. Good for the spit. Good for everyone. As you align a set of tongs and tighten their hinge, a soft breeze threads through the doorway, carrying the smell of damp earth, roasted meat, and faint wood smoke from nearby chimneys. The world outside is shifting from work to rest. Inside your forge, however, you still have hours to go. Your apprentice holds up the sharpened draw knife. Is this good? It's surprisingly decent. Yes, you say. Next knife. He deflates. Oh, you hide your grin. As he returns to work, you lean against the anvil for a moment, letting your arms rest. The iron underneath you is cool now, a stark contrast to the heat that dominated your afternoon. You breathe deeply, letting the quiet settle. Quiet never lasts. A familiar pair of voices drifts past your doorway. Two villagers discussing something with the hushed intensity of men who are absolutely not supposed to be gossiping, but absolutely are. "I'm telling you, the road isn't right," one whispers. Roads can't be not right, the other argues. This one is. You listen without moving, eyes drifting toward the cobblestones outside. The travelers said their cart felt heavy, too heavy for what they carried. That doesn't make sense. They said the wheels dragged like something unseen held them back. A pause. Then the second man quietly mutters, "That's not good." You agree silently, but you also know better than to involve yourself. Road rumors grow on their own, twisting, flourishing, evolving into legends if given enough time. And medieval villagers, they fertilize rumors like farmers fertilize fields. Your apprentice breaks your thoughts. "Master." You blink. "Yes?" He hesitates. "Do roads get haunted?" You stare at him. He wilts instantly. "Never mind." You take pity. "Some roads are dangerous, but not haunted." He brightens. "Right. Dangerous how?" You answer honestly. "People, weather, bandits, broken wheels, bad luck." "Oh," he considers, "not ghosts." "No." He relaxes visibly, then asks, "What about cursed goats?" You sigh. Focus on the knives. As he returns to sharpening, you turn your attention to the final task of the evening, drawing down the heat on the forge, not extinguishing it, just letting it settle, letting it breathe, letting the fire drift into that deep, calm glow that will keep your embers alive until dawn. You pump the bellows once more, slowly, gently, just enough to keep the coals red. Sparks dance upward in tiny spirals, catching the dim air like drifting stars. It's peaceful in a way only a long day of hard work can be. You rest one hand on the anvil, feeling its weight, its history. Anvils outlast their smiths. Some outlast entire families. I once heard a traveling smith claim he worked on an anvil older than the kingdom itself. Historians still argue whether that's possible, but the idea comforts you. Crafts outliving their creators, tools bearing witness to centuries. You pick up a small file and begin smoothing the teeth of a rasp. The rhythm settles into your hands easily. Forward, back. Forward, back. The apprentice sharpens, the forge breathes, the tavern murmurs, night unfolds. And then you hear it. Soft footsteps. Measured. Almost polite. A silhouette appears in your doorway, the rain-cloaked figure from earlier. They stand just inside the threshold, cloak dripping faintly, boots wet with the last remnants of the storm. But now you can see their face. Sharp eyes, calm expression, jaw set with the quiet confidence of someone who has walked very far and knows exactly why they're here. Your apprentice freezes, holding the draw knife like a defensive talisman. The cloaked figure speaks. "Blacksmith," they say, voice steady. "I need your help." You look at them carefully. Their cloak is well made, travel-worn but carefully maintained. A satchel hangs at their side, bulging with something oddly shaped beneath layers of linen. Their boots are muddy, but not from farm soil, from road soil. Long road soil. Your instincts tighten. What kind of help? You ask. The figure reaches into their satchel. Your apprentice squeaks. Slowly, deliberately, they lift out an object wrapped in cloth. Heavy, angular, metallic. They set it gently on your workbench. And when they unfold the linen, your breath pauses. Because it's not a hinge, not a tool, not a weapon you've seen. It's something older, heavier, stranger. The figure meets your gaze. Can you repair this? They ask. You don't answer yet, because suddenly your quiet evening has shape-shifted into something else, something unfamiliar, something intriguing, something that instantly awakens the part of your mind that's very good at metal and very bad at ignoring mystery.
You don't touch the object right away. You don't even lean forward. You just look at it. The cloaked traveler steps back slightly, giving you space as if they know, really know, that a blacksmith's eyes often see quicker than a blacksmith's hands. Your apprentice leans so far over the sharpening bench that you're convinced he might fall face first into the whetstone. The object sits on your workbench like a misplaced relic. Heavy, darkened metal, thick edges, intricate grooves. None of it matches tools or weapons you've handled before. It isn't a farming implement. It isn't a hinge, chain, latch, blade, buckle, pin, latch, clasp. Nothing from your everyday arsenal. It looks ancient, but not ruined, just tired. You clear your throat quietly. What is it? The cloaked traveler lifts their hood, revealing a weathered but sharp-featured face. Someone accustomed to long roads and heavy decisions. Their eyes flicker toward the object. It's part of a lock, they say. You frown. A lock for what? They hesitate. A full heartbeat. 2. Then, for a chest. A very old one. Your apprentice whispers, "Treasure," under his breath. You kick the stool he's on. He squeaks and pretends to sharpen faster. You turn back to the traveler. Old how? They answer simply, older than this village. Interesting, concerning, potentially profitable. You run your fingers along the metal, not touching it fully, just brushing close enough to feel its temperature radiate. The grooves etched into its surface are precise, geometric. They fold inward, overlapping like the petals of a metal flower that forgot how to bloom. It's beautiful, in an eerie way. You lift it carefully. It's heavier than it looks. Solid iron, but alloyed with something else. Something you can't name at first touch. The weight pulls at your wrist like a promise. You ask, what happened to it? The traveler says, it jammed. The mechanism refuses to move. I've searched for a smith capable of repairing it. You snort softly. If you need someone delicate, you've come to the wrong forge. Everything I fix usually involves hitting it. They smile faintly. I know. I've heard. Oh, you ask. Word travels. Wonderful. Somewhere out there, people are discussing your heroic plow repairs and your ability to resurrect ladles bent by tavern disasters. You examine a narrow opening in the object, an internal cavity filled with grit and rust, but something else. A faint shimmer, as if another metal hides beneath the first. This is your quirky fact of the section. Medieval metalworkers sometimes layered metals to create stronger alloys, though many techniques remain misunderstood. Historians still argue whether certain alloys were intentional innovations or happy accidents caused by inconsistent smelting temperatures. This looks intentional. You tilt the piece gently. A soft rattle echoes inside. Your apprentice jumps behind you. "What was that?" he whispers. You give him a look. "Metal. Relax." He nods, not relaxing. The traveler steps closer. "Can you repair it?" You exhale slow. You're tired. Your arms ache. Your shirt is a mixture of soot, sweat, and rain. The forge has been roaring all day. But something about this piece, its age, its precision, its quiet challenge, pulls you in. "I can try," you say. The traveler bows their head, just enough to signal gratitude, not enough to reveal anything else. But there's something strange. As they bow, you notice a small emblem stitched on the inside of their cloak. Not a noble crest, not a merchant mark. Something circular, abstract, like the pattern on the lock itself, mirrored in thread. Your gut tightens slightly. You nod toward the object. What's inside the chest? They lift their eyes, calm, careful, measured. "That's not important," you say evenly. "It is. For me." Their jaw shifts. A muscle ticks near the cheek. They weigh their options. Then, "Books." You blink. "Books?" They clarify. "Manuscripts. Old ones. Valuable ones." Your apprentice relaxes instantly. Books don't bite. Books don't explode. Books, unlike roasting spits and hinges, rarely cause bodily harm. But something doesn't add up. The metalwork is too sophisticated for a mere book chest. Too heavy. Too deliberate. Too secretive. Still, you don't press. Not yet. You carry the object to a dimmer section of your workbench where softer light helps reveal subtle flaws. You tilt it left, right, then back again. The grooves catch the glow of the forge in odd ways, reflecting patterns like the metal wants to tell you its story, but isn't sure you're ready for the ending. Your apprentice edges closer. "Do you want me to?" "No," you say instantly. He freezes. You fetch a narrow poker, insert it into a small opening, and gently tease the internal mechanism. It resists, hard, like something inside has fused or lodged itself sideways. "It's stuck," you mutter. "Yes," the traveler says softly. "It jammed after the chest was moved." Moved. That word stands out. Not opened. Not dropped. Moved. You feel the traveler watching you closely, not in suspicion, but in hope. A heavy kind. The kind carried by someone with very few people left to rely on. "Can you loosen it?" they ask. You roll your neck slowly. "I'll need heat." The traveler stiffens slightly. "Will that harm the mechanism?" "Not if I'm careful." A pause, then a nod. You move toward the forge, sliding the metal piece close to the coals. Not in the fire, just near it. Enough to warm the casing
so its internal parts expand just slightly, enough to loosen what's stuck. You watch it closely, hand hovering over the surface. The metal warms, slowly, carefully. The traveler stands perfectly still. Your apprentice holds his breath like he's trying to impress the air itself. Finally, you test it again. Thin poker sliding into the cavity. A faint click. You inhale sharply. There, you whisper. Something shifted. The traveler leans forward. Can it open? You shake your head. Not yet. You carry the warm piece back to your bench. With careful pressure, you begin separating the outer plate from the inner tumbler. The mechanism resists like a stubborn mule, but after several moments, a seam appears, followed by a thin gap, followed by another quiet click. You stop. Look at the traveler. You murmur. It's not just a lock. They lower their voice. No, it's a puzzle. Your apprentice gasps, delighted. A puzzle lock. You glare at him. He freezes. The traveler hesitates, then adds, and there are only a few people left who know how to repair them. You swallow slowly. The puzzle lock gleams under the forge's glow. The evening deepens outside. The tavern hum grows louder. The night prepares itself. And your calm evening? Gone. Replaced by a question wrapped in metal. You look at the traveler. All right, you say, setting the lock on your bench like a promise. Let's see what secrets you're carrying.
The puzzle lock sits on your workbench, like a quiet challenge, its metal catching the firelight in sharp glints that feel almost intentional, as if it's watching you as much as you're examining it. Outside, the evening has deepened into a soft indigo, the last warmth of daylight dissolved into the lantern glow of the square. The tavern hum grows thicker. The forge feels smaller, sharper, quieter. The way rooms do when important conversations are about to happen. Your apprentice stands beside you, stock still. Part curiosity, part terror, part, if I breathe wrong, I will be banished. The traveler watches from just inside the door, cloak dripping faintly onto the floor, face unreadable. You adjust the lamp over your bench, drawing the light closer to the lock. The grooves are even clearer now, interlocking channels, cross patterns, delicate ridges that don't belong on anything as practical as a chest lock. This is craftsmanship for the sake of secrecy, not protection. A smith didn't make this. A craftsman did. Where did this come from? You ask quietly. The traveler exhales through his nose. Far south. You wait. They add, from a monastery. Ah, I murmur. So, stolen. They flinch, not offended, just caught. Recovered, they correct softly. From the ruins. Your apprentice's eyes widen. Ruins? You elbow him gently. Focus. The traveler steps closer, lifting the lamp a little higher. In the lamplight, they seem older. Not in years, just in burdens. When the monastery fell, many manuscripts were lost, but some were saved, hidden in a chest designed by the monks themselves, locked with this. You lean in, and you're trying to open it. She shakes her head.
trying to move it. The chest is sealed. The lock jammed when the building collapsed. We only need to unjam it, not unlock it. You tilt your head. Why not unlock it? A pause, a hesitation, a flicker in her eyes. The chest must not be opened, finally, until the council meets. Your apprentice whispers, "This is definitely treasure." You cover his mouth. He squeaks. You return to the lock. The outer plate is loosened, but the inner mechanism remains stubborn. You pick through the grooves with a slim metal pick, clearing dirt, rust, and what looks suspiciously like ancient wax. The pattern reveals itself more clearly the more grime you remove. Interlocking teeth, counter-rotating rings. Very fine work, the kind nobody makes anymore. Too expensive, too time-consuming, too unnecessary in a world where most problems are solved by either a sword or a hard stare. As you rotate the mechanism, two small gears shift within the metal, softly ticking against each other. Your breath catches. "This isn't just a lock," you murmur. "It's a map." Your apprentice leans closer. "A map to what?" I shrug. Or maybe it's a timer. Could be both.
Historians still argue whether medieval puzzle locks were symbolic devices or practical ones. Some insist they were metaphors for spiritual alignment. Others claim they were simply very bored monks showing off. The truth? Probably a messy combination of philosophy, engineering, and too much free time. You warm the lock again, carefully, letting the metal expand just enough to loosen whatever ancient grit clogs the mechanism. A bead of sweat rolls down your cheek. The traveler watches every movement, tension visible in their jaw. You test the mechanism again. It shifts, slightly, but not enough. Your apprentice leans closer. "Can I?" "No," you say, instantly. He steps back like he's touched a ghost. Then you pause. A thought hits you. This wasn't damaged by age. It was forced. The traveler's face tightens. We suspected as much. You turn the lock over. A hairline dent sits just inside the rim, barely noticeable, but unmistakably made by a chisel or pry tool. Someone tried to open it, you say quietly. Someone without permission, before we recovered it. You exhale slowly. There it is. The thing that explains the tension in their shoulders, the urgency, the reason they crossed the village square during a storm just to find a blacksmith. This is no simple chest. This is a custody battle. You tap the metal gently. Heat won't be enough. We need to align the internal rings. The traveler nods. I thought so. Your apprentice raises a hand. What if we break it open? Both you and the traveler turn to him slowly. He lowers his hand immediately. Never mind. You kneel to examine the lock at eye level. The inner mechanism is slightly warped, just barely from the forced attempt. Not destroyed, but twisted enough that the internal gears won't sit in their proper grooves. We'll need leverage, you mutter. You fetch a tiny wedge, slip it into the seam, and gently pry, not to open it, but to straighten the misaligned plate. The metal groans softly, like an old man waking up from a nap he didn't plan for. You hold your breath, press again. The traveler leans in. Then, tick. A small, satisfying sound. You sit back. It's free. The traveler inhales sharply. Can it turn? You test the mechanism with a light twist. The rings rotate, slowly, reluctantly, but cleanly. A faint hum of alignment courses through the metal. It's moving, you say. The traveler's shoulders drop in visible relief. Thank the saints. Your apprentice, overwhelmed, whispers, "Did we solve the puzzle?" Not yet, but the lock is no longer jammed. You hand the puzzle lock back to the traveler, who wraps it carefully in linen as though handling a newborn star. Their voice softens. You've done more than you know. You shrug lightly. It's what I do. But the traveler doesn't move, doesn't leave, doesn't step toward the square. Instead, they look at you with a seriousness that pushes the air tighter around your ribs. There will be others looking for this, people who do not want it delivered. Your apprentice squeaks again. You fold your arms. Why tell me? Because you may be the last person who touches that chest before its contents change everything. You blink. Everything? They nod. Everything. You glance toward the square. Lanterns glow. Laughter drifts. The tavern spills warm light onto the wet stones. The whole village looks safe, small, ordinary. But the traveler's eyes say otherwise. Before you can ask anything else, they give a small bow and slip into the night, quiet as smoke. You watch them go, the puzzle lock hidden beneath their cloak. Your apprentice steps forward slowly. Are we in trouble? You pat his shoulder. Probably. But you smile. Because trouble you can work with. And night in the village is just beginning.
The night folds around the village like a thick woolen cloak, warm in some places, drafty in others, stitched together with laughter, lantern light, and the occasional echo of someone tripping over a loose cobblestone. Your forge glows behind you, less a blazing inferno now, and more a dozing giant, breathing slow red breaths beneath the settling ash. You step outside, letting the door swing gently behind you. The air is cool, smelling of wet soil, roasted meat, and the faint sweetness of crushed herbs. Lanterns flicker along the square. A few villagers wander between buildings, clutching mugs or baskets or each other. The tavern is alive with music that wobbles slightly out of tune, either from ale or enthusiasm, probably both. Your apprentice stands at your side, arms full of tools you insisted he put away before bed. He looks exhausted, but satisfied, the way all apprentices should look at this hour. So, we're really not in trouble? You stretch your back until your spine cracks like a polite campfire. Not yet. He nods. That's comforting? It shouldn't be. You begin your nightly routine, banking the embers, scooping ash over the glowing heart, adjusting the dampers. This is the ritual that keeps tomorrow possible. Blacksmiths do not start their day from scratch unless something has gone horribly wrong.
As you work, a lantern carried by a passing villager casts moving shadows across the doorway. You catch glimpses of conversations. The travelers said they're heading north. Strange metalwork I've never seen. The goose bit him again. The road washed out. Normal concerns, strange concerns, goose concerns. Life goes on. Your apprentice helps you tidy. He sweeps a corner that doesn't need sweeping. He polishes a hammer that isn't dirty. He puts a tool on the wrong hook, moves it, puts it on another wrong hook, panics and shoves it under a bench. You pretend not to see. Master? He asks quietly. What was inside that chest? Really? You sit on the anvil, letting the warmth of the forge settle into your muscles. I don't know, I say honestly, but the people looking for it won't be simple. He shivers. Like bandits? You shake your head. Bandits want coin. This is different. He swallows. What can we do? You give him a small, steady smile. We do what we always do. We fix what's in front of us. We stay ready for whatever comes next. He absorbs this with the solemnity of someone receiving an ancient prophecy, even though you mostly meant it as a practical workflow philosophy. You stand, stretch again, and gather the last few stray tools. The forge is dim now, its glow a soft ruby smear against the stones. Quiet, peaceful, tired. Come on, you say. Let's lock up. You step outside with him and pull the wooden door firmly shut. The iron latch clicks, a sound that somehow feels like safety, or maybe just bedtime. The village looks calmer now. The drizzle has stopped completely. Clouds drift apart to reveal faint stars. The breeze carries the low murmur of the tavern, laughter, clinking mugs, a half-hearted cheer. Somewhere in the dark, the goose honks triumphantly. You choose not to investigate. You send your apprentice home with one final instruction. Don't lose the broom again. He nods, then immediately trips over nothing, recovers, salutes, and disappears into the night. You rub your eyes. The weight of the day presses onto your shoulders, not unpleasantly, just heavily, like a blanket made of iron dust and long hours. You walk a slow loop around the forge to check the outer beams, ensuring the rain didn't loosen anything. The wood is damp, but solid. The roof still drips in its usual, predictable place. Then you walk the short path towards home. Cobblestones glisten in lantern light. A cat darts across your path, offended by your existence. The distant hills are dark silhouettes. You pass the well, the square, the silent market stalls. Everything is calm. But a small part of you, some quiet instinct forged from years of hammering metal and reading people, knows that today was a turning point. The puzzle lock, the traveler, the warning that others will come. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but eventually. You push open your cottage door. Warm air greets you. A tiny fire still flickers in the hearth. Your bed, rough wool, uneven, welcoming, sits in the corner like it's been waiting all day to scold you for working too late. You sit heavily on the edge, untying your boots. You drag off your soot-stained apron.
You rub the ache from your wrists. Your whole body hums with that post-forge vibration, an invisible echo of every hammer strike you delivered since dawn. You lie back. The straw mattress sighs beneath you. The world softens. Your thoughts drift. The cloaked traveler walking into the night, the metal grooves of the puzzle lock, the promise of everything changing. Your apprentice nearly hitting himself with a draw knife. The goose, always the goose.
Your breath slows. Your muscles unwind. Your eyes fall shut. And somewhere in the back of your mind, quiet, steady, certain, you know dawn will bring more work, more noise, more iron, more problems, more stories, maybe even more mystery. But not now. Now you let sleep find you, and the night holds still. The forge is quiet now. The coals, once bright and demanding, have softened into a long, low glow, warm enough to keep the night gentle, dim enough to let everything rest. The village lies in its own kind of silence, the kind that only arrives after a long day of work and weather and whispered stories. Lanterns sway lightly in the breeze, their flames flickering like sleepy eyes trying to stay open. You breathe slowly, letting the last of the day slip from your shoulders. You can still feel the faint hum of the hammer in your hands, the memory of heat along your skin, the soft rhythm of rain on the roof earlier. Let it all drift. Let it settle. Let it fade gently, like sparks rising from the coals and dissolving into the dark. There is nothing you must hold on to right now. Not the travelers, not the warnings, not the mysteries wrapped in linen and metal, not the work waiting in the morning. Everything can rest for now, set down beside you like tools after a long day. Feel the calm stretching out around you, slow and steady. The night air is cool. The world outside grows soft, like it's tucking itself in. Even the tavern noise has faded to a distant murmur, like waves rolling against a warm, quiet shore. You breathe again, slow, deep, comfortable. The kind of breath that reminds your body it's safe to loosen, safe to rest, safe to drift. Imagine the forge embers dimming one by one. Imagine the village lights softening. Imagine the sky above settling into stillness. There is nothing left to do tonight. You've done enough. You are enough. Let your thoughts slow. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let sleep come gently, like a warm blanket drawn over your mind.